So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we're continuing with awesome guests from Warrior Nun, and we're concentrating on the wonderful work behind the camera. And this week, we've got the awesome composer of this epic soundtrack to Warrior Nun, Tangelene Bolton. Welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
It's an
I'm
honor
really
to talk to you.
And I'm really excited because literally music has always been a passion of mine, even though I've got no talent whatsoever. I used to sing as a profession, but when I've picked up an instrument or tried to make music, I'm absolute rubbish. And a little fact that I didn't realise, Elvis Presley had over 600 hits and he didn't write one of them. So it just shows that, you may not need talent as a writer, but we're going to talk about the epic score. But first of all, I want to say massive congratulations, because even though it's cancelled, and I'm sure the fans are doing an amazing job. I think we're on over 5 million tweets at the moment for Save Warrior Nun, which I just think is amazing. It just shows the backing and the love for this show. And we've got a picture here
I
from
agree.
Rotten Tomatoes. So Warrior Nun was the highest rated show from Rotten Tomatoes, 100% critics and 99%. So what does it feel like being part of this show and how well received it's been, putting aside that it's obviously been cancelled, but I'm sure that's for financial reasons in Netflix corner. But what does it feel like being part of such a successful show in the way of the reviews and the critics?
It's incredible. It feels really good to see, all of our hard work being recognized, and the fans are just incredible too. Be nothing without the fans.
Oh, they are. I mean, the thing is, they keep on going forward. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I know Simon Barry is, going to other streaming platforms in the hope they'll pick it up. And the way I look at it is that the amount of fans that this show has got, whoever picks it up, are going to automatically get so many more subscribers to their platform. So it's sort of a ready-made, business plan. But who knows? We'll keep trying. We'll keep supporting the show here at Be More Super. And, fingers crossed we'll get another go at season 3. So let's start off with how you got into this industry. Because, it's one of these industries that I don't know. I've never, again, as I said, I've never had anyone on that's been in the music industry in this way, or being a composer. So what on earth propelled you into this industry to begin with?
Well, I'd been playing piano since I was really little, like 2 or 3. So that was always in me, music, running around outside, being into nature, being into putting on plays with my sisters. So that was always in me, the creativity. And then, I was just always playing music. I was classically trained. And then I went to Berklee College of Music to study film scoring. And then I graduated and started working for Hans Zimmer's company. And then just after time, I've gotten to where I am now.
Oh, you've got a cat in the background.
You hear her? I
It's
was
fine.
hoping she wouldn't make an entrance, but she might make a few.
It is fine. I've got 4 cats, so mine are very lazy and selfish. So they only come around when they're hungry, or they're bringing us gifts from outside. So
Well, you'll hear her.
if she wants to make an appearance, she's more than welcome to.
Aww.
So when starting out in this industry, did you have a plan in place? Did you know what you wanted to achieve or your end goal?
Oof. Yeah, well, I mean, definitely to be a composer working on big projects and to have a unique sound and have a unique voice. So that's definitely something that I've tried to sort of keep in the back of my head while beginning in the industry, while interning, while working as an apprentice, to always make sure I'm still working on my own, short films over time to kind of craft my voice. So that's definitely, yeah, something that I had in the back of my mind all the time.
And who was your influences when you were growing up in this sort of industry?
I mean, Hans Zimmer, definitely. James Horner, Thomas Newman, who else? Um, John Bryan. Kind of a mixture of more orchestral and sort of more contemporary, like a
Mm.
blend of both.
And then obviously you talk about the training and you go into Berkeley. I mean how challenging was it? I mean, what were the biggest challenges you had to face, through that process to get to where you are now?
You know what? There weren't that many challenges at school. School was a lot of fun. I mean, the work was always challenging, but it was great because it was kind of like a little mini music industry, but we were still kind of in our bubble of school. I always tell people in school, value that time now because once you get out, it's completely different. It's a bit harder. So school was fun. It was mainly, coming from Boston to Los Angeles and seeing how it's not just about all the hard work you put in. It's about, your personality. How do you get along with people? Can people trust you?
Mm.
Because in the end, if people don't trust you, it's, millions of dollars or more
Mm.
that they could potentially lose.
And where's Berkeley based? Is that East Coast or West Coast?
Berkeley College of Music, it's in Boston.
Ah,
So
Boston.
yeah, East Coast. Yeah, there's another Berkeley too, but this one's the Boston Berkeley College of Music.
Because you grew up on the East Coast, didn't you? Was it Jersey?
Hmm.
And you've
Yeah,
just
very
been back,
different.
and you've just been back for Christmas for the holidays. So that must have been
Yes,
nice. I think on your Instagram you were showing some pictures of the classic, like New York pizza. Um,
pizza.
that
I
you
ate
had.
so much. I had like three pies, and I'm like,
Did
oh,
you?
this is my third round, like my third pie. Yeah,
Well,
I
do you
had to
know
pack
what?
all
If
the
you
carbs in.
if you don't go there that often, you want to get your money's worth while you're there. New York is one of my favourite places to go. It's
It's
just
great.
fantastic just to walk around and just people watch and look at the buildings, the art, the architecture, Carnegie Hall, places like that. It's just fantastic. It's magical. It really is, especially at Christmas time. So, am I right in saying that the industry that you're in is very male orientated? And what does it feel like, sort of, making those waves? Because now I've got girls myself. I think I've become more aware of females within the industry, of music, of business, and in general. So it's quite nice to see females breaking the mold and actually making that diversity a bit fairer. So what's it been like, going through your journey from starting out to now, being a female in a very sort of male orientated, industry?
Well, I'm happy that it's starting to change a little bit. The numbers are still really low, but I'm happy that my friend, like some of my friends in the industry are starting to um, get some gigs, get some more higher profile gigs. And I'm so happy for that because we just want the next generation to not have to go through quite as much as what we've had to go through earlier on in our careers. I
Mm.
mean, I'm still at the start of my career, but like 10 years ago, the goal is for those coming right out of college or even high school to not have to face as many of those challenges. Like, how can I get a room? How can I get in a room with certain types of composers where maybe other men are getting more opportunities just simply because maybe it's easier for them to interact
Mm.
with, certain male composers. There is that part of it too. So I'm just happy that people are starting to be a little more open now
Mm.
and recognize how big of a deal this is and how more women need opportunities.
Definitely. And music hasn't got a gender. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's for a man or a woman. You know, at the end of the day, it's that musical score. It's that thing that makes films, sort of lift a bit higher. Because I've always thought, when I've watched movies, it's the score, it's the music that literally makes you move, your emotions. And it's funny. I mean, I want to challenge anyone out there watching this or listening to watch a movie, put the subtitles on and just turn the volume down and see what experience you have with that TV show or that movie without the soundtrack, and then put the soundtrack on, and how much of a difference it makes as well. I just think it is so magical. So along with your scoring of adverts, TV shows and movies, you have conducted your own orchestra, which I just think
Yeah.
is just absolutely awesome. I think I've got a picture here of you commanding that stage. There you go, commanding that orchestra. And I've got a few questions, because do you know what we see? These conductors like Andre Rieu and many others, and we see you waving that white stick, and we all want to pretend to know what you're actually doing with that white stick and what it means. And I don't want you to laugh, but I've got a little inkling. Is it right in the way that the white stick is keeping the beat? So it's like it's. I'll show you. So if you've got the stick, if you go down, up, that's one beat a bar, is it? And then
Yeah, pretty
one,
much.
two, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And is
Yeah,
is that what you're doing with the stick? Is keeping the orchestra in time?
pretty much. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So, yeah, you're keeping time, but you're also, depending on your movement, you're kind of showing dynamics as well, like how loud or soft to play. So if I'm, going out more,
Yeah.
it's kind of like crescendo, and then if I'm smaller, it can be like pianissimo, which is really, really soft. So there's kind of a bunch of things I'm doing. And then, depending on where I'm looking, I may be signaling um, certain, certain groups to play, like violins, the cellos,
Mm. I
maybe a
mean, what
French horn solo.
what was that experience like? Because not only did you conduct, I think it was Hollywood Chamber Orchestra, if I'm right in saying, um, not only did you conduct them, it was your own, you know, piece as well. I mean, how amazing is that, to stand there and actually listen to your own music being played and conducting them?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's definitely something, I mean, something that transcends space and time without sounding cheesy.
Mm,
It's something that feels not quite of this realm.
mm, mm,
It's otherworldly. Yeah, there's a special connection that you feel with the orchestra and the sound, the way everything's resonating in the hall,
mm.
that I can't quite explain except say it's just pretty magical.
And do you feel more people need to go and experience a live orchestra at least once in their life?
I think everyone should.
Mm. I mean,
Definitely.
I mean
Definitely should.
the great thing is, recently I went to the Royal Albert Hall in London, and I actually watched Superman the movie, and
Oh, that's amazing.
the London Philharmonic Orchestra was playing the soundtrack. Literally, words can't explain. It was just astonishing. The conductor, I can't remember his name. It's a very long name. He must have been worn out by the end of it. Literally, I took my eyes off the screen and I was watching the orchestra more than I was the actual movie, because I just found it's just fantastic. And that's a great thing. There's a lot more movies being played with live orchestras now, all over the place, which I think's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Is conducting something that you'd want to do more? You know, uh, on the side of composing.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things that go. It's challenging and in such a fun way. There's a lot that you have to process in real time that you don't always get to do when you're composing behind a screen. For example, like, the time, right? That you were saying, oh, we go down, maybe that's one beat. There's other elements to that where, yeah, you are keeping the time, but you do have to keep into consideration that you should be a little ahead of the beat sometimes too. Because, for the orchestra to kind of see you, it takes them a second, right, to register what you're doing. So it's almost like a secondary time in your
Mm,
head to make sure you're a little above the beat, or if you need them to catch up a little bit, you might have to speed up a little as well. And also keeping that internal tempo in your head. For example, if you want to slow down a little bit, go to a completely different tempo, maybe you're at 120 and then you want to go to 80. You have to sort of have practice ahead of time so that you have that gauge as to what tempo you want to switch to randomly. So there's a lot of fun little things you have to go through in your head.
wow. Do you know what? We take all this for granted, the general public, and we don't understand how much work is actually put into this sort of thing, and the
You don't
amount of
have to know.
talent.
That's part of the magic.
I know, but I think that we need to appreciate this a bit more because we go to these movies and we often forget about stunt men, the composer and the score, and it's great to find these things out. The other thing I wanted to find out is obviously how do composers get jobs? For films and TV, because we know actors go into a room and they do a piece. I've just got in my head this really funny image of all these composers lined up with their keyboards and they're walking into the
Oh,
to the thing.
that's how it
And
feels sometimes.
does it really? I mean, how does the process work in the way of getting those opportunities? Is it someone introducing your work to them and then listening to it and then thinking, yeah, that's a person for us?
A little bit. I mean, at this point, where I am, I sort of had a little bit of a connection with Netflix. My name was kind of in the mix for some things. And then I would say about a year prior to me landing Warrior Nun, I had gotten signed to an agency. So there was a lot of things kind of prepping me for the opportunity. So Netflix had reached out to my agent. I think that's how it happened about Warrior Nun, that they were looking for a composer. And so we sent a general reel. That was the first thing that they wanted. And then they'd come back and said that the showrunner, Simon Barry, was liked my music, and if I could send another reel. So we sent a second reel, and I'd included some pieces that I had written to specifically for Warrior Nun, like things in my mind that I thought could be cool for season two. So I
Mm.
made sure to include that as well. That's not always how it happens. You're not usually asked to do that all the time, but I was already a fan of the show. I'd watched it like many times before by this point. So I was into it. Like I wanted this gig. So
Yeah.
I included some pieces. And then I heard back and they said that Simon wanted to have a meeting. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. He's probably just talking to a lot of people. So I had the meeting and we talked for a few minutes. And he said, I just want to put a face to the name and I want to give you the job.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, wow. I definitely screamed at some point. I was like, why did I do that? But I was excited. And I immediately asked him, can you give me spoilers? So in that first meeting, he gave me some spoilers, including Avitress, and I screamed.
Oh,
I was excited.
what? Well, I suppose
Yeah, he
you'd
told
be
me right
signing
away.
an. I suppose you'd be signing an NDA, and you wouldn't be able to talk about it anyway. But how cool is that? I mean, obviously, I've got a couple of fan questions here, and I'm going to bring one up on screen here. So, At this question here, at what point do you decide that a musical piece is done? How much input does the director, because you just spoke about Simon Barry, director or showrunner, has on the composition? So at what point do you decide that the piece is done? Are you a perfectionist? Do you want to always keep on going
Oof.
back, or is there a point where you think, no, I'm fine with it?
I'm definitely a perfectionist in the sense that I will stay up all night to like
Oh, bless you.
to get it perfect. But it's mainly because there's more than just writing music in my day. There's lots of emails, there's phone calls, there's meetings about future opportunities that I have to do. So I'm always finding, sparks of creativity throughout the day whenever they hit. That's the whole thing that I search for is when those creative sparks come, capturing that moment because that's when my music's going to be the best.
Mm.
Getting that creative moment. But sometimes it's impossible during the day. So that's why at nighttime, especially for Warrior Nun, I don't know if it was something about Adriel and those demon hours, but around 3 or 4, sometimes those were the times where the best music came out. So let me answer your question. Where am I getting at? So at some point in the night, the creative juices will flow. And by the morning, I go, oh, I need to finish this. So usually when I start overthinking something is when it needs to be done, as
Mm.
well as a deadline. So as long as I can find those creative pockets throughout my day, whatever times they show up, after I get those ideas and I'm able to hash ideas out, get everything done, and programmed and recorded, that's when I know it's done. The deadline's coming up. If I'm starting to overthink it, I know I need to wrap it up or take a step away, come back, just finish it.
Mm.
So it's pretty strategic, but it's all about finding those little pockets.
And on the second part of that, I mean, obviously, when you've finished, say, one of them, do you then send it over to Simon Barry? Does it have to get signed off? I mean, do they then say, no, can we change something? Or literally, does it stop at you? And then you say, no, I'm happy with
No.
this. This is how it is.
Well, I'm so lucky that Simon was so open creatively. It's such a rare thing to have someone so trusting of his cast and crew and everyone behind the scenes too. So that's a cool thing about Simon. I feel like he really picks and chooses carefully, and I felt that trust ever since the start. But yes, it still does need to go past Simon. So when I'm done writing everything, I have everything perfect in my mind. I send it over to Kevin Crahan, our music editor, who's also incredible. Music editors don't get enough credit. So he will piece everything together, send off the quick times to Simon, and he will, take a look through all the scenes, and then if there are any scenes or cues, that's what they're called, that I need to take a second pass at, he'll let me know. Maybe a few notes here that he'll need me to take a look at, and then I'll address those, and then get them back to him
Mm.
quickly, and hopefully by a second or third pass. I like to get it all done at first pass, but hopefully second or third, and it's pretty good.
I mean, do you watch the actual footage then to get an idea of the scene for what you're actually, composing for?
Yes, of course. I mean, it was kind of a mixture of me writing some early ideas to some scenes, which doesn't always get to happen. But sometimes I get to write music before scenes are finished. But for the most part, yes, I'm scoring to the scene. So, sometimes there's temp music in the background that the editor will place in to kind of help inform some decisions or any other things that we've talked about in spotting sessions, which is when we kind of all come together and watch each episode and discuss different scenes. So I have some notes down already about different scenes and how to approach them or what moods need to be enhanced. Maybe there's certain moments that I need to pull back a little bit more on. And yeah, I'm pretty much crafting the music around the scene and staying true to really what I'm seeing on screen. That's pretty much how I approached Warrior Nun. Is what's the story? How can I just help tell the story even more through music? I don't want to push any agendas. I just want to show what we're already seeing and amplify moments where I can, or pull back when I want certain moments on screen to shine even more.
But you certainly did that, and it's just an awesome score. And I've got another
Oh, thank
um,
you.
fan question. Um, there we go. Is there one track that stands out as a favourite, or was the easiest to create?
Ooh, the final scene between Ava and Beatrice. I feel like that was very easy for me to write because the emotion was just so strong between them. It was such a vulnerable scene, and it was so awesome to just lean into that vulnerability with the score for that moment with the piano and the strings. And that was actually something we revisited again a few months later. Simon came back and said, "Can we push the melodicness
Mm.
of after the push into the portal?" I don't want to spoil too much. Well, if you haven't seen it, come on, you have to
Yeah,
watch
I
it.
know. Come on.
Yeah. So after Ava's in the portal, I pushed the melodicness even more. Simon really wanted me to keep pushing it. So
Mm.
I made sure I restated their theme again to wrap up the season.
Mm. I mean, how do you choose? You know, some some of the pieces, when you say melodic, I mean, they are hypnotic. Some of them are. I mean, some of them, especially the ones with the voices. You can hear voices in the background, like on 2 months later and Ava in the Void. I think it's just beautiful how it's done, and literally, I could listen to that on repeat. I just think it's beautiful. So, how do you
Thank you.
pick the instruments for those, or the sounds for those pieces? I mean, have you got a method in mind of how you start building, each track? What do you start with?
So I start putting together my sonic palette. I like to call it sonic palette pretty early on. I would say in the script stage is when I began sort of putting together what instruments I wanted for season two. Because when you're reading it, you're already starting to envision things. So it's such a fun space to be in creatively because I'm already envisioning the spaces that I'm in. So that's when I start, you know, handcrafting what instruments I want. And then as the season starts rolling along, I might add a few things here and there based on what I'm seeing visually. Because sometimes, I mean, in a script, you're only limited to your own imagination, not, an insanely talented cast and crew who's all putting their own experiences and takes on how they want things to be reflective visually and sonically too. So I'll add things as I go. But specifically for 2 months later, and you said Ava in the Void. Is
Mm,
that what you said?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's voices, and then you'll hear some dulcimers and zithers, and I wanted to have kind of an ancient feel. But
Mm,
for Ava in the Void, that's the first time that we see that Ava has her first encounter with Rhea, I believe. So for Rhea, I actually have it over here. I have the instrument I used. This is what it looks like. It's pretty crazy. You see this?
wow.
It's not plugged in, but it's interesting. It's called The Pipe. It's by Soma Laboratory. And basically, I can sing in it and mess with all these different algorithms here to kind of create different tones to my voice. So I use this for Rhea and Lilith. So for Rhea, I wanted it to sound more ethereal, a little more muffled, and not of this realm. So
Mm.
a little otherworldly, somewhere else. We don't quite know what she is. Yeah, she's God, but there's a little mystery to her too. Is she to be trusted? Adriel isn't a fan of her.
Mm.
So there's something there that's not good or bad. That's
Mm.
kind of a huge tone for Warrior Nun is what is good, what is evil. It's so subjective, right?
Mm.
So that's sort of what I wanted to create with Rhea was this sort of not good or bad. So
Mm.
I use this instrument for her, and then for Lilith, I use a different algorithm where you can hear as the season's going on that her voice starts changing too. It starts having this kind of quivering quality to it, and I layered it with a lyre, which is I'm just picking up instruments now.
Do you know what? I've just got a vision of you just picking up your cat in a second and going, and my cat did this.
She's when she's sleeping is when I know that I'm on the right track.
Excellent.
Yeah. So this was Lilith's instrument, a lyre. Wait,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
here. So I played it. It's out of tune right now. So I played it, plucked and very ethereally in the beginning for her, especially when she goes to visit her mom. I wanted to kind of show her backstory a little bit. And then later on, as she starts transforming, I bow it. So you hear a little bit of that layered with all the other instruments that I have. So that paired with um, the pipe,
Wow.
amongst other
H-
things.
How
So
many
that's sort of my process, just handpicking things. And
how many instruments can you play? Because it's just amazing.
I mean, definitely a few. I'm pushing myself to become even better at guitar this year. So
Excellent.
a few.
Excellent. I just like the idea of technology as well being introduced within this because the future is technology. And yes, having live instruments will never get replaced in some way or form, but it's quite nice to see, certain instruments being used or new technology being used to create these sounds, which is astonishing. What's been the most enjoyable part of working on Warrior Nun?
I think being asked to create a theme for Avatress, for between Ava and Beatrice, because that's something that I came up with really early on to the scripts. I'd come up with their theme, and I'm so grateful that the theme is what stuck. But what was so hard was not just playing their theme all the time. Like we wanted to make sure that it was something that grew organically over
Mm.
the course of season two. That was definitely something that Simon made sure to tell me is we want it to grow organically. I was so
Mm.
excited about Avatress, but making sure to have it just come here and there at certain moments, so that by the end it was in full fruition by that
Mm.
point, and also to leave room for that amazing kiss
Mm.
with amazing song that comes in there. So being very careful about where to place their theme, that was definitely a really fun part.
And I've always said the show is such a classy show, and the way they did that, because I'll say it again, because the show got a bit of bad feedback during season one for trying to I don't know what the term is trying to push that storyline to sell the show, but they did it all in a very tasteful, natural, beautiful
It
way,
was.
and you didn't think any of you just thought it was two people that obviously loved each other, and finally they had that scene, and I can imagine millions upon millions of people shouting at the screens going, yes, it's finally happened, which is beautiful. It really, really is. And kudos to the writers and the filmmakers and yourself for making that scene so perfect, for the fans and for the story, which is fantastic. I mean, how involved were you within, the Warrior Nun team? I mean, were you literally in like a studio all the time? Did you ever get to spend any time with the other filmmakers in person, or was you, surrounded by all your wondrous equipment?
Wondrous equipment. I wish I could have been in Spain. That would have been fun. But I was in my studio, receiving dailies. If those whoever doesn't know what dailies are, it's like the daily footage that comes in each day after filming. So I would just hop on my computer, take a look at the dailies, and maybe start writing some ideas or putting some new instruments together in my template. That's pretty much what I was doing. I was trying to make sure I could, keep being involved behind the scenes with taking a look at dailies and continue diving into scripts or new versions of the scripts so I could be fully prepared once everything got to the locked picture stage. I would just come up with different themes, send them over to Simon, wait a little bit, and then he would give me some feedback and kind of go from there.
And if there was a season 3, would you like to work on it?
I would love to work on season 3, especially with this holy war. I intentionally didn't, want to build season 2 too big because I knew this, as Lilith says, a holy war is coming. So season 3, come on, epic battle music. It needs to continue. It definitely does.
It does, because there's so many unanswered questions. Rhea, is she good or bad?
Rhea, she's interesting.
Yeah, you don't know. You really don't. Who knows? We will find out. I know I spoke to David Hayter. He was on the show, and he mentioned to me it was really bad. So halfway through the interview, he had a text message from Simon Barry to tell him that the show had been cancelled. And literally, he didn't want to tell me because he didn't know if it was public knowledge yet. So then, apparently, the next question we went on to was, season 3. And what he's got to plan. And they've already got ideas. They already know what they potentially want to do in season 3 for this holy war. So who knows? I mean, fingers crossed. But with you in your career, I've got a few more questions for you. If you could work with one composer, past or present, to work side by side on a project, like your dream job, which composer would it be and why?
Oh, wow, this is a great question. And it's a very hard question. I don't know. I feel like I have a couple different answers because, okay, this is the problem. Do I want to work with someone that I feel like I have similar tendencies to? That could be an easy thing to say, right? Pick someone who you feel similarly to. Or do I pick someone who I feel really different to? Because it could be a good chance to grow. I'm just going to throw out John Williams because, he's the best, right? Because I feel like I love writing melodic music and I just love his stuff melodically. But I would say I have more of an approach to like the Hans Zimmer camp where I like to infuse a lot of contemporary stuff. So I would say Hans Zimmer or John Williams. Two of the greatest composers ever.
Two of the greatest. And apart from your own work, if you had to pick one score, from a TV show or film that will always stay with you as one of the greatest pieces, which piece would that be?
For a TV show?
Or film?
I always go back to this. I mean, I would say it's an understated score. A Beautiful Mind. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. The
I
Russell Crowe one.
love,
Yeah.
yeah, I love the score to that movie so much. It was one of my earlier memories of why I wanted to get into composing. That, along with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I love
Mm.
the score to that. Um, and also the Coen brothers. Like, I love a lot of their scores too. Carter
Mm.
Burwell. I was really influenced by him growing up too.
Mm. I mean, one of
Key
my
combo.
favourite of all time is an old Christopher Reeve movie, and it's called Somewhere in Time. And the score
Mm.
was written by John Barry, and
Mm,
it's
he's
just
good.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful score. Because it's a very romantic movie, so the music is it just takes you on this journey. You don't even have to watch the movie. The music takes you on that journey, and it's just beautiful. It really, really is. But
I
you know
gotta
what?
check it out.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's got Jane Seymour in it. It was made in 1980,
Okay.
so I was like one at the time. But when I grew up and become a Superman fan, I found the movie and I thought it was fantastic because I'm a big wimp when it comes down to movies. I like my romantic sort of cry at the screen
So do
movies.
I.
You know what I mean? I'm a modern man, as they say. But no, Tangelene, you've been a great guest, and thank you so much for your work on the show. I know all the fans absolutely adore you and the work that you've done for the show to make it what it is. And let's fingers crossed hope for season 3, and everyone needs to be hashtagging
Yeah.
hashtagging Save Warrior Nun, and get it trending to 6 million, 7 million until someone picks it up. But if they don't, do you know what? We've had 2 beautiful seasons of such a stylish and well written, well made show, and it will always
The
be
fans keep it
loved.
going.
Yeah, exactly. You need to do
Fans
your
keep it
score for
going.
season 3. You need to do your epic, battle score. But thank you so much. Look after yourself and keep safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.